I think this is the first time we've had a guy who's not on campus yet, ever on our new format here. We've been doing a show 13 years, but in our new digital platform, this is a little new. We're going to bring in a guy, and the reason why I wanted to have him on because he is very entertaining on social media, and he's trying to help the Auburn coaching staff recruit a little bit. So Walker White joins us now. He's an Auburn quarterback commit. You know him as a guy who, as some of you guys are seeing in the chat room, the future of Auburn football from Little Rock Christian Academy out in Arkansas. Walker, man, welcome into the show. How you doing?
What's up? I'm doing good. Thank y'all for letting me come on in and talk a little football.
First, we'll start with the simple question. Journalism 101. Why Auburn? You had a lot of offers. What'd you like about Auburn out of the gate?
For sure. I mean, that's a loaded question, but one of the biggest things that I saw firsthand was as soon as I got there, every single staff member welcomed me with a smile on their face. And that's a great sign of good culture. And one of the biggest things I was looking for is good culture, because if the players on the team are not bought in and it's not a good culture, then they won't want to come in and work, and it'll create a losing team. But if the staff members are bought in, it makes the players bought in. And when everyone is bought in and they love to work and love to come in and work, and they just have a zeal to just get better, then that's really saying something about the staff that Coach Freeze has put together. And, it's just so contagious, and the energy there is just so attractive. And one of the other things I was looking for while getting recruited was like, who can develop me to become my best. And I know I'm never going to reach my full potential, because like us quarterbacks and all the NFL players know that they are never like to their full potential, and that we can always get better. And so I knew going into the recruiting process that I wanted to find a coaching staff who could get me better and grow me as a player and as a person. And meeting the staff that Coach Freeze had put together, starting with Coach Freeze and his offensive mind, is just so good. Seeing him bring Ole Miss out of the dumps and going into Tuscaloosa and beating Alabama, you just see that he's a natural winner. And you see him bring on Coach Montgomery, who is RG3's OC at Baylor, and just the experience there. And then Coach Austin, who's coached hundreds of quarterbacks and made them so successful. And then Coach Stone, who's been under Kirby Smart at Georgia, has been at Bama, Miami, Arkansas, Liberty with Freeze. And honestly, that's just the biggest thing that I saw is, like, I know I'm going into a coaching staff with so much experience, and I know that I will get developed and taught, because one of the biggest things is I know that I don't know everything, and I want to grow and get better. And I know that that is possible at Auburn.
Your initial face-to-face meeting with Hugh Freeze, what do you remember most about that?
I just remember how authentic he was. One of the biggest things I've learned is, like, if you are authentic with people and genuine, then you can never sell them short. Like, he was totally open with us, totally honest, and you could feel that, and you could feel the emotion in the room as he was talking. And some coaches, I'm not pointing anyone out, but I'm just saying, like, there are coaches out there who just want to, like, give you their pitch and then, like, move on to the next guy. Coach Freeze brought us into his house, he sat me and my parents down one-on-one and just had a conversation and just talked. And that was the biggest thing for me, is I saw a coach who can relate to players, and he has such a cool story. And I love that part about him. And, he represents one of the biggest things that I find most important in my life, which is his faith and the Lord. And so that was just one of the biggest things that I saw personally.
Little Rock Christian Academy quarterback is Walker White. He's with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. That's something my buddy Dabo Swinney sells a lot at Clemson as well. Dave Aranda, Baylor, were in the mix as well. Was there any common thread between Hugh Freeze at Auburn, Dabo, and Coach Aranda and their staffs that made them your three finalists? Did you see, sort of the common thread between all three of those?
I would say just the authenticity of all the coaching staffs and the culture. I mean, every you go into every building of those three programs, you just see, like, it's just such a healthy culture, and the players love being there. in it everywhere you go, you're always seeing players like doing extra work or whatever it is. You just see that the people love being at the facilities and learning with the coaches. And I would say that is the common thread is the culture. And, I mean, you don't really get that everywhere, but for sure that is one of the most common threads. And, you look at the staffs of Baylor, Auburn, and Clemson, ironically, they're all seems as if they're all Christian based. And that I didn't purposely do that, but it ended up being like that. And so it was pretty cool and neat to see it all pan out.
Did you
Like
have
it
a
did.
favorite team growing up?
Well, I grew up in Arkansas, and my family cheered for Arkansas, and tons of my family members have gone to Arkansas. So yeah, I grew up cheering for the Hogs and loving Arkansas. Now people always ask me like, okay, what was your dream school? I was like, honestly, like I never really had a school where I said to myself, yeah, I'm gonna go do this there. It was always just like, I cheered for the Hogs, but I never really pictured myself at a certain place. But once it got to crunch time and all these like offers started coming in, I started talking. I was like, wow, like I don't really find myself, you know, leaning one way or the other. I kind of just want to see where this takes me. So that's what I did. And, I took as many chances and visits as I could. And for Auburn, it only took one visit for me to know that that is where I was supposed to be.
Well, and you tell a pretty cool story about your visit to Auburn, and I think it involves you going out on the field at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Can you walk me through what that first step onto what will be your playing surface was like on that recruiting visit?
Yeah. So the whole Auburn deal is kind of crazy. Coach Montgomery was at Tulsa. He was the head coach at Tulsa, and Tulsa was my second offer. And my dad has always said, like, keep up with your relationships with the coaches, and basically because you never know if they're going to end up being at the school that you're playing at. So one morning, and when I went on a visit to Tulsa, and I loved it. I loved Coach Montgomery and Coach Trahan, who was the OC and quarterback coach at the time. But it wasn't the place for me. But one morning in December, I woke up with a text from my dad, and it was a tweet of the hiring of Coach Montgomery to Auburn. And my dad said, "See, I told you, never burn the bridges in your life because you never know where they'll end up." Well, anyway, Coach Montgomery ended up calling me. I was his first 24 call, offered me on the spot, and Coach Freeze and Coach Montgomery were like, "Hey, we got to get you here up on the 16th or any time." They didn't necessarily say the 16th, but it ended up being January 16th, a couple of weeks before I committed. And we made it happen. I was like, all right, well, I'll see where it goes, and I absolutely loved it. And it was a great visit. It was just me and my family with the whole staff, just getting to know, um, just the culture and see the planes and do the facility tours and all that. But the part of my visit you're talking about is me stepping onto Jordan-Hare Stadium. And I will say, and this is true, as soon as I stepped foot on the grass, I walked in there. It was nighttime. They had this big like picture on the scoreboard, and it was lighting up the stadium. And I stepped foot on the field, and my heart sank, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this feels so right." And I was like, it was just like an instant peace where I was like, this is where I'm gonna be. And obviously, I went on a visit after that to Baylor, Arkansas, and Clemson. And at the end of the day, my parents were like, "All right, what are you thinking?" I was like, "Auburn." At the end of the day, I was like, "Auburn's where I want to go." So here we are.
NIL is obviously a huge part of recruiting now. I'm not going to ask you any specifics, but how does it work in this regard? Like when a school's recruiting you, do they just say, "Hey, what are you looking for?" Or do they throw you an offer first?
I will say NIL wasn't even talked about at my visit until like the very end. So I had my visit on January 16th, and we came in that next morning on the 17th, just kind of watching a few more clips of film or whatever. Just we had extra time to spare, so we went back to the facilities to hang with the coaches. And all like on my first day of the visit, I didn't even think about it. We didn't even talk about it. And the second day, we were just sitting around the meeting table, just kind of like saying our farewells. My dad asked the question of, hey, like if Walker were to commit, when does the conversation of NIL come in? And they were like, I think once he signs papers. And that was the end of that conversation. So I didn't really even take it into consideration. I mean, I know that going into SEC ball, like I was going to be taken care of no matter what. So it wasn't really like a train of thought for me. It was just me. Like that visit was all about me getting to know the coaches and the offensive system, and that was the extent of the NIL conversation. So it was very brief and wasn't very a big part of my decision.
One of the reasons that Taylor Korn, who handles our social media, and she's an Auburn grad, and I wanted to have you on is what you do on social media. I mean, first off, you're a humble guy to be a quarterback. I usually think most great quarterbacks are a little bit more cockier than you are, but you're a very humble guy. But you also are trying to shake the trees and get some recruits to follow you to Auburn. Why is that important to you, and how's that feedback been when you're jumping into anybody's timeline to try to get them to commit to Auburn?
It's very exciting. It's tough. I will say, to always be authentic and unique with how I recruit on Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. But it's so much fun. So the reason I've taken it so seriously, and the coaches never even really put me up to this. I was like, I don't know if you watched my commitment day video, but I kind of tricked the coaches. So the Auburn staff didn't know I was committing to them until they saw it live. And I kind of tricked Coach Montgomery. I was like, hey, like just so I know the other guys y'all are recruiting, like who are the main guys y'all are focusing on? And he gave me, they were like, we like these guys, whatever. And so at my recruitment commitment video, I called all those guys out. And the reason I do this and take it so seriously, and I've kind of made it my own goal, the coaches didn't put me up to it, but is because I had a phone call with Bo Nix, not while he was at Auburn, but after his first season at Oregon. One of his quarterback coaches like set me up with a call with him just to talk and whatever. And he told me, he's like, you're going to be as good, or in high school, one player can be the difference, whatever. But once you get into the SEC and Division I football, he said, you're only as good as the players around you. And so I've taken that to heart, and I know that I need to get some dogs around me. And for me, what I've just been trying to do is just build relationships, see if, I click with certain guys, and if they, want to come catch balls from me or protect me or get handoffs by me, then let's go, let's ride. That's kind of what I've been preaching. And, I just try to create those relationships and build off the recruiting that the Auburn staff already does so well. So it has been a big focus for me just to, try to get some guys alongside with me, and we're not done yet. We do still have some more coming. Can't say anything more than that, but it's exciting for sure.
Well, Walker, we appreciate your time. I remember going into my senior year this time of year, 12:39. I probably would have just been rolling out of the rack. You look like you've already gotten in at least one workout today. Is that true?
Yes, sir. We would practice this morning, and I'm about to go do another workout here in a second. So,
well, I assume you'll early enrollee January. Is that something you've thought about? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir. I'll be there in January.
All right. Well, we look forward to talking to you again. And I'm sure Auburn fans, they were excited we were going to have you on, and this interview will do nothing but add to that excitement. Be safe the rest of the year, and we'll see you when you get to Auburn, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. War Eagle.